I was supposed to be the dude. I was supposed to get the $100 million contract. I was supposed to be the #1 pick.
We've seen and heard stories of these 5-star and #1 ranked high school recruits not really working out at the next level. But however, none of them, not a single one, even comes close or comparable to the one you're about to hear today. Coming out of high school, Max Browne, the player we're going to talk about in today's video, threw for over 13,000 yards and 146 touchdowns in high school. That's not too bad. He was also the perfect and ideal size for a quarterback at the college and NFL level. He was 6'5" and 210 pounds. He had great arm talent, was a decent athlete, and just everything you look for in a quarterback, and that's why he was the #1 quarterback in the class of 2013. Going into college, he had all the hype in the world surrounding him. It almost seemed like there was no possible way he could fail. And well, his college football career wasn't just not good, but to be honest, it was a living nightmare.
If you asked me at 17 what was going to be my worst nightmare, it would be that type of scenario.
It may seem like I'm trying to exaggerate it, but as you just saw, those words came out of his mouth. You would think a guy who's the #1 quarterback in the country, a 5-star recruit, would at least get a shot at the NFL, but he didn't even get that. As much as he failed to stay relevant on the football field, he also failed to stay relevant at all. He has completely fallen off the map, and nobody knows what really happened to this guy. He wound up giving up football completely after his college career. Here's the big question with that. Did he give up football because he wasn't in love with it, or did he give it up because he finally realized he simply wasn't good enough? There's a lot of questions people have about this guy, but it all circles back to the main question we're going to figure out in this video. What really happened to Max Browne? What's good, y'all? Real quick, on one of my previous videos, I said subscribe and let's see how many new subscribers we can gain, and we gained over 600. I guess that's how I got to get you guys to subscribe to the channel. So once again, let's try it on this video. If you want to see how many new subscribers we can gain, let's try to see if we can gain 1,000. Hit that subscribe button and I'll tell you how many new subscribers we gain in the next one. I hope you guys enjoy. It's going to be an entertaining video. Get your snack, get your popcorn, get ready. And now without further ado, let's get into it. Max Browne. I know we're just starting, but I already know before we really dive into details about everything, this will be one of the most entertaining videos I've ever done on my channel. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one. Max Browne, let's just say he has one of the most fascinating stories I've ever seen. To get into Browne's story, you already know, we gotta throw it all the way back to where things started. Growing up, Max had 4 brothers and he was the youngest. Like me, you, and most people watching this video, unless you're a psychopath weirdo, he had a lot of friends. You know how it is when you're growing up, you got 20 or 30 friends, but as you get older, you probably got like 2 or 3. Anyways, getting back on topic with Max, when he was a child, it was clear to all of his friends there was something different about him. One of his friends even stated he was the quote-unquote chosen one. Whoa, before we go any farther, I gotta speak on that. That is some high praise coming from one of your friends. Could you imagine if one of your friends got interviewed and they said, oh yeah, growing up, he was the chosen one? You'd feel pretty good about yourself. I'd also go out on a limb here to say that Max had to be good at whatever he was doing as a child for people to say that. Ironically enough, what he was doing to get this high praise was football. When he was only in 4th and 5th grade, his team was running a no-huddle offense. Oh, if that wasn't good enough for you, take a listen to this. He wasn't even playing with 4th graders when he was in 4th grade, he was playing with the 6th graders. Max even said, word for word, we were throwing 35 times a game in early middle school. Wow, that's pretty insane. Most high schools, they don't even throw 35 times a game. A little fun fact about Max I want to throw in there, and I really want you to understand this, is that he had that dog-like mentality. He was a competitor. He not only wanted to win at everything he did as a child, he wanted to dominate you. You hear people say it, oh yeah, I work hard and I'm a hard worker. No, you don't understand. Max Browne was the definition of a kid who worked hard. When he was in middle school, he was also playing AAU basketball, and after his basketball games, he would then go with a private trainer to practice football. As amazing as everything sounds so far, some people were still doubting him and saying, hey, maybe it's a case of he's a young prodigy and he's gonna fizzle out the older he gets. For all those haters and doubters, they couldn't have been any more wrong because he only got better. In his first start of high school varsity football, he threw for 5 touchdowns and had 418 yards. In his first start, that's ridiculous. I get it, some of you may be like, oh, I could do that, but I think we can all agree we'd be nervous. I don't care if they were playing a middle school team. To throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns once again in your first start, it's impressive. The hype surrounding him was insane. It was almost like he was a celebrity at his high school. I couldn't even imagine what his phone looked like back then, but somebody at the school said in an interview, it felt like there was a rock star at our school. Maybe the most impressive part about Max, and it kind of went under the radar, is that most people, even me at that age, I'd have been cocky getting all these offers in high school and knowing that I was the best thing since sliced bread, but he wasn't cocky. Ladies and gentlemen, that is really, and I mean really rare to see. I would say around the ages of 17 to 21, maybe 22, but most people grow out of it. That's when males, they're their most cocky and they have the biggest ego. As you get older, 23, 24, 25, it starts to fizzle out, but in high school and when you're a young guy in college, that's when your ego's the highest. And I know somebody in the comments are gonna say, you don't know that, man. If you don't want to take my word for it, here's what somebody else said. He was a great kid. He wasn't cocky. He didn't act like the #1 quarterback in the country. That's just one guy though. How can I know that's true? To double down on that statement, I went to his Instagram and scrolled all the way down to his high school pictures, and you could just tell he never said anything cocky at all. Was I around him in person? No, but from everything I saw and everything I read, he just seemed like a normal guy. He just happened to be really good at football and the best thing ever. When it was all said and done for his sophomore year, check this out. He threw for 4,182 yards and had 50 touchdowns. Are you kidding me? 4,000 yards and 50 touchdowns as a sophomore. In the following year, as an 11th grader, aka a junior, he threw for 4,000 yards once again and 45 touchdowns. And then to follow that up in his senior season, he threw for 4,500 passing yards and had 49 touchdowns. It's worth mentioning that he wasn't just throwing a lot of passes and not completing them. He had a completion rate of 73.5%. So yeah, he was slinging the rock a lot, but he was also completing a good chunk of those. Another thing I love about him, and I like a lot of things about him, so I'm going to say that a lot, is he was self-aware. When somebody is self-aware, they know the difference between reality and just made up things in your head. For example, you know how growing up everybody's like, oh, you could be the president of the United States? Well, in reality, that's just not going to happen. And as we continue to go on with this video, you're going to see that come back into place, so stay tuned. Here's why I brought that up. Check out what Browne had to say in the interview in high school. I lived a fairy tale childhood. That first recess in first grade when the balls rolled out, everybody wants to be quarterback. I was the quarterback, and I was still the best quarterback in 12th grade. It was definitely a dream come true. So he was aware, and I don't say luck because I don't believe in luck. He was blessed. He knew he had a great opportunity and he was taking advantage of it. A lot of people growing up, they want to be the star quarterback. He was just fortunate to get that opportunity. His senior year would eventually wrapped up and he was listed as a 5-star recruit and the #1 quarterback in the country and the 11th best player overall in the country. It goes without being said, every school in the country, they were drooling over him, but he decided to commit and sign with USC. And now this is where our story takes a drastic turn for the worse. As a 5-star recruit, you have that ego and swaggerness to you. Even though Browne wasn't as cocky as some other 5-star recruits, I'd say he'd expected to maybe start by his first or second year. I mean, come on now, if we're listed as the #1 quarterback in the country and we go to a college, we think we're the best and it even says we're the best on paper. So yeah, every one of us can agree we'd expect to start. It's not even having pride or believing in yourself, it's cold hard facts and evidence that you're the best quarterback in the country. When he finally got to USC as a freshman, there was a quarterback competition, but he lost it and he was listed as not even the 2nd string, but the 3rd string. The two guys listed ahead of him go by the name of Cody Kessler and Max Wittick. During that entire freshman year, which was 2014, he only appeared in 3 games and had 7 passes. Not even a sample size worth even talking about. Let's flash forward to 2015. Going into 2015, once again, there was a quarterback competition and he was hoping to win it, but sadly he didn't. He only appeared in 3 games and had 8 pass attempts. Not a good sample size to go off of. And this is where things get tricky. If you don't win the quarterback competition your first year, not a big deal and nobody thinks too much of it. He was a freshman and there were some older guys ahead of him. You can't really fault him all that much. But after his 2nd year where he didn't play a lot, you're now having the conversation of, oh, is maybe this guy a bust? Is he just not that good? It started to eat away at Max, and here's what he had to say about it. I remember going to practice and then going to the ice bath and scrolling through Twitter and see what the beat writers wrote for the day. I was aware of the idea that, hey Max, this is just Twitter, these are just reporters, it doesn't matter, just tune it out, but it's a whole other battle when it's your life. Also adding, I felt like I was mentally strong as a kid, but at the same time when you're seeing those things and I had nothing but success in my entire athletic career, it was tough. It was really tough. There were 2 years or so of unfavorable reviews. You can say what you want, maybe he wasn't doing that good in practice and that's why he wasn't playing. It is still a difficult situation for anybody to be in. I say this all the time when we talk about these 4 or 5-star recruits being the man in high school and then they fall off. It's tough to deal with. Imagine going from your high school where everybody's praising you and you're the best thing ever, and then you get to college and nobody even cares about you and they're already writing you off as a bust. You want to talk about going from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows? That's exactly what it is. Max puts it into an even better perspective when he said, because in my head and in other people's heads as well, I was expected to play right now. There's a blessing of being a 5-star recruit, don't get me wrong, but I think the curse of it is that the second you step on campus, there's an urgency to play and produce right away. He's 100% right. 5-star recruits, they're expected to produce right away. If you want me to be honest, I think it should be that way because there's a reason you're a 5-star recruit. You're supposed to be the best of the best. Going into his junior year though, after putting countless hours of blood, sweat, and tears and putting in all that work, it finally paid off. Max Browne was finally named the starter and his dreams were coming true. But there was good and there was bad news. The good news, he's the starting quarterback. The bad news, he had to play Alabama in his first game. You want to talk about bittersweet, that is the definition of it. It also wasn't just any Alabama team, it happened to be one of the best defensive teams they've had in a while. I know there's going to be some people saying, oh, I wouldn't be scared to play Alabama, but until you do it, it's just a different ball game. Alabama is one of those programs where they have the fear factor. They beat 90% of the teams before they even step onto the field. It's the name, it's the brand, it's everything. When you hear and see Nick Saban and all those 5-star recruits, you already lose mentally in your head. For Browne though, that wasn't exactly the scenario because they jumped down on a 3-0 lead against Bama. I actually remember watching this game live and I was kind of worried at the beginning, but I wasn't worried for too much longer because we won that ball game 52-6. Oh, I said we. I know there's going to be some new people coming to the channel. By we, I'm referring to Bama. I am an Alabama football fan. Like I said, he started out okay, but he didn't end out okay. He only completed 14 out of 29 pass attempts, which is less than 50%. He also only threw for 101 yards and had an interception. In the second half, he was also being switched in and out with the other quarterback at the time, Sam Darnold. Most of y'all know me, I do not sugarcoat anything and I'm pretty critical. But I don't care who it is, it could have been Vince Young. I'm not going to criticize a quarterback after only their first game, especially when you play Alabama. The rule of thumb I always go by is unless you're a 5-star recruit, I'm not going to criticize you too much your first year, and if you are a 5-star recruit, I'm going to give you a couple of games. By the time it's your 8th or 9th ball game, you're not a freshman anymore. You've been playing for over half the year, you're about to be a sophomore. Browne and USC, they got embarrassed 52-6, and the trolling, it began. Here's what his wife had to say. Or at the time it was his girlfriend, my bad. Here's what she said, quote unquote. The trolling and the hate comments and the attacking was horrible. Also adding, there were memes making fun of his appearance and of his play. It was so nasty. Even my mom and dad couldn't believe it. My mom was on her Twitter account trying to defend Max and I was like, Mom, there's like thousands of tweets. You're not doing anything. I'm not really shocked by that. Most of you know how social media goes. You're going to get made fun of. And if you're a college athlete and you don't play good in a game, it's going to be worse. Someone also stated this, and it's facts. That was the birth of Sam Darnold and Jalen Hurts that game. When for us, it was supposed to be the birth of Max Browne. That's 100% true. Jalen Hurts was a freshman for Alabama. Nobody expected him to win the job over Blake Barnett, who also somewhat disappeared. And yet, the rest is history. Jalen Hurts goes on to have a good career, and now he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. For Max Browne, that's what he was hoping would happen to him, but it didn't. It was only 2 weeks later when the head coach at the time called Max into his office and said they was going to roll with Sam Darnold for the rest of the year, and he was going to be the starting quarterback, not Browne. That's really sad, and it's unfortunate, really. Here's what Max had to say about it, quote unquote. I basically cried my eyes out for an hour. These next 2 quotes I'm about to read off, it gives you a dose of reality. Max Browne said, that meeting with Helton kind of represented, alright, this is just not happening. There's no more. Okay, there's another rep or another practice. No, that was the end of the road at USC. All the juice was sucked out of me. Also saying, and this is where you can't help but only feel bad for him, I wouldn't say I went into a full-on clinically diagnosed depression, but there were certainly dark days in the months to come. In that 2016 season, as mainly the backup quarterback, he threw 93 passes, completed 58 of them, and had 2 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. His third year at USC would be his last one, and in 3 years at that college, he only started 3 games. That's not how he envisioned it would go. Max Browne would even say that was his biggest nightmare.
I got benched as a captain here. That was rock bottom. If you asked me at 17 what was going to be my worst nightmare, it would be that type of scenario. Football not working out at USC. How the heck could that ever happen? That's why I worked so hard, did the things I needed to do, so that did not happen.
Following his junior season, he wasn't dumb. He knew he wasn't going to play there, so he transferred to Pittsburgh in 2017. As bad as everything was at USC, our story starts to head in a different direction, and it gets good. When he transferred to Pittsburgh, he had a great spring, and he was named captain of the team and won the starting quarterback job. Kinda like USC, it didn't go how he expected it. He started out the year 1-2, and then was benched and replaced by Ben DiNucci. I don't know if some of y'all have seen that Ben DiNucci viral TikTok that goes around, but that just came to my mind. Anyways, let's get back on topic. Come to find out, the guy he got benched for, DiNucci, wasn't too much better, and he was given another opportunity, and he was the starter once again. And he was playing great. He was phenomenal. In one game against Rice, I know it was Rice, but still it was impressive, he threw for over 400 yards and was 28 for 32. That's almost a 90 completion percentage. Everything was going great. His career was at an all-time high, heading in the right direction, but on October 7th in 2017, it would all change. They was playing Syracuse and he got sacked, and it ended his college career, and actually he would never play football again. For Pittsburgh in his career, he was 96 for 135, 71 completion percentage. That's really good. Threw for nearly 1,000 yards and had 5 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He only played 6 games for Pittsburgh, and it's so unfortunate that this guy went through so much adversity at USC, had to sit the bench for basically 3 years, finally gets his shot at Pittsburgh, things are going great, and he has a season-ending injury. It almost leads you to wonder if he would have finished out that year with Pittsburgh and things went great, he maybe could have possibly got drafted. I don't think the chances were real high, but with him being 6'5", around 210, and he was having a good year, it could have been a possibility. We've seen examples of guys having just one good year like Joe Burrow, and they could be a #1 pick. No, do not get me wrong, I'm not comparing him to Joe Burrow, I'm just saying that as an example. When he had that injury, and if you're an athlete, you can relate to this, it's devastating. He even said it wasn't even the pain, it was just what the injury symbolized. And what he means by that is his career was over. Or not his career just quite yet, but his season. He spent the next 15 months rehabbing a torn labrum, and it was on his throwing shoulder, and that's insanely important for a quarterback. Anything associated with your throwing arm, and especially your shoulder, it's going to affect some things. You can come back and they can say you're 100%, but in reality, you're just not. After doing all that rehab and work, he did participate in a tryout with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he wasn't offered a contract. A main reason for that, and he even stated this, his throwing, it just wasn't the same. Quote unquote, here's what his girlfriend said. I think the phrase he used was, I'm knocking on a door that just isn't going to open. Remember in the beginning of this video, I said he was in touch with reality and he's self-aware? That's what I'm talking about. He came to the conclusion, and I think it was the right conclusion, that football wasn't meant for him, at least not to play it. He literally gave the game everything he had, and the game just didn't give anything back. He worked his butt off at USC, it didn't work out. He worked his butt off at Pittsburgh, and right when things were going good, he had a career-ending injury. With his movie-like football career finally coming to a sad and terrible ending, what was next? Yeah, he did play in 2018, but it was only for about 6 games, and by that time, everyone pretty much forgot about him. And since moving forward, he's not even going to attempt to play football, everybody's really going to forget about him. I want you to really understand this, and it's hard to even picture and fathom. In 2013, people were fangirling over him in high school, and in 2018, he was just a normal person. He went from a guy who had it all and he was on top of the world to just a normal guy on the street. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's crazy to think about. All of that happened within the span of 5 years. For that entire 2018 year, he stayed pretty much under the radar because there was nothing to talk about with him. But in 2019, he posted this.
About 20 minutes later, after they offered me, a kid came up to me and said, hey, what's up, man? Hey, I'm Jared. I'm Jared Goff. Just want to introduce myself. I have a feeling we'll probably cross paths down the line. He said something like, he's like, I know, like, you're their guy. You're the big recruit. Like, you're the guy SC's after. Like, I know I'm just here just to, like, whatever. Like, that was kind of the vibe. Is he knew SC wasn't necessarily on his radar. But the reason I bring it up is, if you follow the football world, Jared just signed a $100 million contract extension. Like, I was supposed to be the dude. I was supposed to get the $100 million contract. I was supposed to be the #1 pick, all those kind of things, where it didn't work out. And how do you move on? And I think, one, if you can't get happy for when good things happen to good people, that's on you, and you got to fix your wiring. But two, I think one reason that I'm able to kind of move forward, and if you've seen my past videos, I hate the term move on. I don't think it's real. But if you're able to move forward, in large part, it's just like there's no regret. Regret is deadly, man. Like, if you're sitting there thinking, I wish I would have done that. If I only would have done that, maybe I would have got that contract. If only I would have done that, maybe I would have been the #1 pick. There's no regret, man. You got to squeeze out everything. You got to squeeze everything out of every opportunity, and even if it doesn't work out, like, you know that you did what you needed to do. And I just wanted to jam on this just because I think it's a cool story how everyone has their own paths. Well, Jared Goff may have just signed a $100 million contract, and to my friends and family, it's like, man, that's what Browne should have done. Browne's a bust. Browne's a failure or whatever. That might be too extreme, but you know what I'm saying. For me, he signed that contract. The contract I just signed was a bump up for minimum wage. So we're all on this path. We're all on our own paths. Cool story, cool perspective, and keep climbing, keep fighting.
Flat out unreal, yet awesome video, in my opinion. In that video, I know I showed it to you, but I'm going to sum it up real quick. When Max was being recruited by USC, Jared Goff was like, yeah, I know USC's going after you, but I just thought I'd introduce myself. And then, a few years later, Jared Goff signs a $100 million contract, and Max Browne signs a contract for, I think it was a networking crew, something like that around USC, and he said it was barely above minimum wage. My biggest takeaway from the video is when he talked about regret. He wasn't just saying it for the video. You could truly tell by his attitude, he didn't regret not making it because he knew and he was satisfied with knowing he gave the game everything he had. He just didn't have the opportunity to get to the NFL. Like he said, and it's the last thing I want to touch on before we move on, everybody has their own path. Just because Goff signs a $100 million contract doesn't mean he's not going to be out of a job in 3 to 4 years. And just because Browne signed a contract that was only probably like $30 an hour, it doesn't mean that ESPN won't offer him one in 5 to 10 years that's upwards to $50 million for 3 or 4 years. You never know. And I'm not saying ESPN offers $50 million contracts. I'm just trying to put it into a better perspective so you can understand it. Later in 2019, he would post another video stating he doesn't even pick up a football and play or even pass anymore.
I picked up a football for the first time in like 4 months last weekend. I don't know if I've ever done that in my entire life. From like time I was a baby until now. I don't know if there's ever been a 4-month stretch where I haven't touched a football. That got me thinking too, like, do I miss the game? And I miss the guys for sure. I miss the boys, I miss the locker room, I miss that for sure, but there's a huge chunk of me that, like, I don't miss it at all. That makes me feel 2 types of ways. One, it's sad, right? It's sad that, like, the last 5-6 years of my football career, I don't have the memories to fall back on and be like, gosh, that was a blast. That was a grand old time. A lot of those memories are not fun, dope times. And that's not me complaining, that just is what it is. And so, like, of course I don't miss those times. Of course I don't miss that part of the game. But then another part of me feels guilty. It feels like I should miss the game. Why? Because there wasn't a kid that loved football more than me 2-3 years ago. I was all about ball all the time. There wasn't a kid in the country that loved football more than me.
He would then post several more videos, and I'm going to show you this one talking about how you have 2 choices. You can either talk about how things didn't work out and just complain about it, or you can use it to your advantage.
It's just kind of some activity, and I'll just move on. Shucks, it didn't work out. What a bummer. Like, that's not real, right? When it's your life dream, when it's something you're investing a ton of things in, when you're sacrificing things to make it happen, and that dream doesn't happen, there's going to be some negative emotions with that. Those negative emotions, right? Those experiences, do they weigh you down, right? Do they make you bitter and vengeful and lead to you complaining and telling people about how much you got screwed for the rest of your life? Or do they maybe widen your perspective? Maybe allow you to appreciate the little things in life a little bit more? Do they better equip you for whatever life has in store for you moving forward? It's your choice.
We're still in the time frame of 2019, and this is when he would also start posting video clips on YouTube of him basically breaking down football games. He also stated on Instagram and YouTube that he's wanting to do this and maybe going to broadcasting in the future. In the summer of 2019 though, he would post an Instagram post, and it's lengthy, but it's important to our story. In that post, he screenshotted something where it said that Max Browne was one of the worst players to ever put on a uniform at USC. I don't know about that, that's a different conversation for a different day, but let's check out what Browne said in the caption. Here's some Monday motivation, as this motivates the crap out of me. While I know this article is a bunch of crap, in a weird way, I love stuff like this because it keeps me sharp and locked in. I look in the mirror every day and I know that I didn't leave any stone unturned, and I know what I invested, and I own the fact that this is my reality. People will say what they want, and I'm sure this is what the majority of people think, but it leaves me with two choices. One, I can dwell on this and hang my head, or two, I can get up and dominate today. I know it was kind of lengthy, but it's important, and that is what I love the most about this man. A lot of these stories I've talked about, I don't have too much sympathy for these players because they use that mentality he just talked about. Football doesn't work out and they hang their head and go, oh, pity me, feel sorry for me. Whereas in this situation, in this rare case, Max Browne isn't doing that. He's owning up to the fact that he was a failure at USC. Is that harsh? Yes, but he even stated that. He's openly admitted he failed at football.
You are adamant about, I did fail. Why does that give you power? Why are you adamant about saying you failed?
Because it's the truth. Right? I mean, we hear it around our dinner table and our couch, people talking about the guy who didn't get it done and how he's a bust and all that. Or remember Joe Jones? He didn't get it done, all that stuff. I am that guy. Like, people are literally around their dinner table somewhere. Oh, remember Max Browne? No, he really sure sucked. He didn't pan out. Like, someone is saying that. And like you said, I consider myself, like, I failed in football terms, but I am not a failure. I have more stories to write, but that's just like the truth.
But
when you look back at where I was rated and what I was supposed to do and the output I was supposed to do, I didn't get it done.
But here's my
Straight
question.
up.
And what I want some of you to take away from this, and why it's also inspirational, it's okay to fail at things. Because when you fail at things, you know what you do? Yeah, it sucks and you may be humiliated at the time, but it also is a stepping stone in the right direction. It may sound kind of corny, but it's true. Whenever people invent stuff, the guy who made the light bulb, just anybody anywhere, think of somebody that invented a car, a computer, etc. They didn't get it right their first time. In order to do something right, you normally have to fail at it 9 or 10 times. You can say or believe what you want, but that is exactly what life is about. Me talking to you right now doesn't even do it a slight bit of justice, and I wish some of you could understand how much respect I have for this man. It may sound easy to say, but I wish some of you would understand how big of balls you have to say some of the things he's said and stated. He's openly admitting he was a failure. I want you to think about that. Most people, I'd say 98% of them, have too big of an ego and pride to even admit they failed at anything in life. And for this man to admit he failed at football, the game he loves and cherished, tells you a lot about his character. Max Browne's a guy you want to have in your life. He's a great person, a great friend, just a great everything from everything I've seen. He is a perfect and prime example of the type of people you want to surround yourself with. He's not a yes man. He's going to tell you straight up how it is. The last clip I'm about to show you is a great one because I know some of you may be in high school or you also may be in college, and you're going to be facing this problem too. In this interview or podcast, whatever you want to call it, he talked about once your sport's over and there will be an end, it's not the end of your life.
Career in soccer, they only can envision a career in football. But if you have that passion, I would say couple it with self-awareness to know that your life has other chapters. You know other things are out there. And if you have that passion, you will be able to translate it to something else in a different arena in life. I promise you. Even for a guy like myself, like I was all in on football. But when football's done, like you don't just whittle away. Like that passion's got to go through something else. Truly understand that there is something after their sport. Whether you have an illustrious athletic career and you retire at 40, like there still is something out there.
He hit the nail in the coffin, but let's take a look at this. He posted an Instagram picture recently, well not recently, it was late in 2020, and it was a quote that said, "Hard work always pays off," and he said he didn't like that quote. You can see the X's around it on the corners. In the next picture, he posted one that said, "Hard work always gives you peace of mind," and he said that's what he believes. Max Browne, as much as I respect you, I strongly disagree with your statement saying that hard work doesn't pay off. I disagree 100% actually, because hard work does pay off. You're wrong. Here's my counter argument to Max. Although, yeah, your hard work, you put it on the football field, it didn't pay off on the football field, it paid off and carried over to other aspects in your life. That hard working mentality that you installed on the field, it carried over to your broadcasting career and some other things. I could sit up here all day and debate it, but I disagree with that. If you work hard, it will pay off. It may not pay off in what you think it should, but it'll pay off in other aspects of your life. Fast forward in time to our current date, he is now engaged to his wife and he's going to be working for the Pac-12 network. On one of his Instagram posts, he labeled it as the Pocket Presence Network. I'm not too sure what that means, but you know, kudos to him. I'm glad for him. He posts a lot of different stuff on Instagram, and he also posts on TikTok. You can go follow him. I believe his @ is Browne Max. If you type in Max Browne, it should come up. He posts a lot of clips of him breaking down football games, and it appears to seem that's what he wants to do with his career. I have the most respect for people like this. I firmly believe the true character of a man is revealed through tough times and adversity. Max Browne has gotten beat down, kicked down, knocked down 99 times, and yet he continues to get back up for that 100th time. In life, it's about how you respond, and he has responded in one of the best ways possible. He could have easily went down that dark path, and it would have been easy at times to give up and quit, but he didn't do that. Before we end off this video, I do want to say this. Although, yeah, it's sad his football career didn't work out and things didn't go the way he hoped they would, this has been one of the most inspiring stories I've ever covered. It's just due to the fact, like I said 1,000 times, it's the way he responded to it that emotionally moved me. When I was doing all my research and even recording it right now, every time I looked at something he said, I couldn't help but feel inspired. He is an amazing guy and he has one unreal story. I'm wishing him nothing but the best of luck, and I hope he has a great career in broadcasting, and who knows, maybe we'll see him on TV. I've never said this at the end of one of my videos, but Max Browne, you have my full respect. Wishing him best of luck, my man. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. But so with all being said, I was going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. It was a long one, but it was an entertaining one in my opinion. I had fun making it. I enjoyed making it. Drop a sub if you're new. Drop a like. Doing nice stuff. I'm out, y'all. Peace.